jab, uppercut, leave you laid out on the floor. Try to duck and roll, hit and miss, now you counting stars. Should've practiced more, should've hit the mask, get out there more. Claim that you're the best. You gotta show me, son. Actions over words, baby boy. Is you real or what? Talking way too much, world come. Back sports, talking way too much, world come. Back sports, talking way too much, world come. Back
in the building. What's going on, my guy Dion Washington on deck? Salute to you, brother. Shout out to Tuscaloosa in the building. You already know he said in a sniper position. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to Big Blunts and Boxing. What's good? The GOAT is in the building. Salute to you. What's good? This live stream is going to be speaking on new information, coming from Tony Weeks, because for a minute now, Tony Weeks didn't feel like he was inclined to comment on his actions. And those actions is per the fight that Rolly Romero fought Ismael Barroso, who was a replacement for Alberto Puello. This fight took place in May 13, 2023. Now, I'm going to be honest, it's still fresh in a lot of our minds, especially the hardcore boxing fans. Now, it wasn't like we kind of lost focus about ever covering boxing again, because we done seen this stuff happen before. But this was kind of wild because, you know what I'm saying, Alberto Puello, he pops or whatever the case may be. And then Ismael Barroso with more experience comes on deck. So I remember seeing this replacement and I say, I'm just looking at the name and say, oh man, Barroso, 24-3-2. Okay, this guy got some experience. Okay. 29 professional fights. Rolly's gonna have to step up a little bit. You know what I'm saying? Like Rolly is sitting at 14-1, only 15 fights. He goes in there and he is not looking good, y'all. He had faced a knockdown. But then I jumped a little bit ahead of myself. When I finally clicked on the name Barroso, I said, God damn, this guy reminds me of a dude that I seen in the textbook when I was learning about, the migration period in my history. You know what I'm saying? Old settlers back in the day. You know what I'm saying? Privateers. I mean, just way back in those days, man. It just seems like this dude was from there. He looked a bit old. Come to find out, he was 40 years old. So as the fight went along after him scoring the knockdown with Rolly, everybody was saying, damn, Rolly's being exposed once again. Why? Because this is a much older guy. People were saying this dude was like, 58 and a half years old. I'm 64. You know what I'm saying? 99 and a half. People's looking at this dude and say, no, I can relate to this dude. He remind me of Unc. What up, Unc? What you been up to, Unc? Hey, come on, let me, man. We throwing some shit on the grill later, right? Yeah, come on over, man. Where the kids at? Okay. He remind you of one of those guys. But he went in there and started whooping Rolly ass, man. Grown man strength. Barroso went in there and started whooping Rolly's ass, right? And and though Rolly was attempting to prove to us that he had some type of boxing skill, it wasn't working out. So therefore, once again, the cavalry who was waiting on the ridge line had to gallop down the hill and come save his ass. And the main one that was leading the charge was Toney Weeks. Toney Weeks, a Vegas resident, saved Rolly Romero. Toney Weeks is an experienced referee and judge, y'all. Let's not get it twisted. This man is well known in the combat sports arena. I got much respect for Toney Weeks, but this last fight that he had with Barroso, it wasn't right, man. It wasn't right. Toney Weeks has been in the game doing this since 1994, man. 1994. You know what I'm saying? 1994. He's been a part of some big fights. You remember he was a part of the Crawford Kell Brook fight. You know what I'm saying? He stopped that fight. You know, the consistency. I'm not trying to go off the consistency. I'm just trying to go off the fight that happened in this moment on when Rolando Romero was basically executing a punch combination in the corner, and Barroso was moving his head. You know, he wasn't just standing there getting pounded on. And I guess from a shielded view, it seemed Weeks felt, or it looked like Rolly was landing those shots, but upon further review, they weren't landing flush at all. So that brings me to this point right here. I want y'all to hear what he said with Boxing Scene. This interview was conducted with Michael Woods of NY Fights. And it talks about the infamous stoppage during the 9th round. 40-year-old Barroso was taking unnecessary punishment, thought that of Toney Weeks. You know what I'm saying? Rolando is 27 years old. And of course, I said Barroso was 40. So this is what Toney Weeks had to say. All right, I'm going to get straight to the point. What was in my mind was a 40-year-old fighter in a young man's game. He said a 40-year-old fighter in a young man's game. Toney Weeks told NY Fights, any official will tell you. Now, he's speaking for everybody. Now, he's been in the game about 29 years, right? He's speaking for all the officials, and every official aren't the same. Every official don't go up here calling bad fights and stopping fights like that. Every now and then, yes, you'll get them, and they'll be bad as hell, and it'll make you talk about it. But he said any official will tell you, you get a fight, and a fighter is an advanced age. And now, just to be clear, an advanced age mean what? 40 years old? 35 years old? I mean, what is an advanced age? You should have been a bit more clearer. He said, any fighter will tell you, any official will tell you, you get a fight and the fighter is at an advanced age, you're going to look at him a little harder than the other fighter. When I look at a fighter who's up there in age, there's two things I look at. Pay attention, y'all. His reaction when he takes his first hit and his stamina in the later rounds. Once again, per Toney Weeks, he said any official will tell you, you get a fight and the fighter is at advanced age, you're going to look at him a little harder than the other fighter. When I look at a fighter who's up in their age, there's two things I look at. His reaction when he takes his first hit and his stamina in the later rounds. Okay? What about what you said is a young man's game? If it's a young man's game there, Tony, why wouldn't you take in consideration that that young man was on his ass? Now you say you always look at the advanced fighter, but what if the advanced fighter was the one that was giving you all the action? What was the advanced fighter who was one that was pushing the tempo and was having that success in there against a younger fighter? This is when this doesn't make sense. This is like, man, it sounds good for producer notes and freaking an article and all that, but it doesn't make sense if the older advanced fighter is in there with the undeveloped young fighter, and you seeing that young fighter being exposed in front of your eyes, man. You see it for yourself. You know Rolly is getting exposed. And you go up here and rob Barroso of an early stoppage. And you're pretty much saying that you thought at his advanced age that the punch was landing, but yet and still he wasn't the one that was on the canvas early. You know, it sounds good for the people. You know, it sounds good to the people when you look up and you want to talk about the man's looks. You know, the man looked his age. Every fighter don't look 40, but the man looked his age and more. You can tell he's been working his life. You know, I don't know, but if you're gonna try to convince me, the reader, that you take a good look, you take a good look. You know what I'm saying? You take a good look before you look at the young fighter, and the young fighter is the one that's in trouble. You know what I'm saying? It don't make any sense, bro. So let's keep going. Tony Weeks said 40-year-old fighter in a young man's game, but yet WCS says that young man was in the company of a 40-year-old fighter and he wasn't faring too well, Mr. Weeks. That's what I'm saying to you. You're trying to convince the fans that an advanced fighter don't have a chance. I mean, what if that fighter haven't had as many fights? What if that fighter has preserved themselves? Everybody's physical structure, their anatomy, how they go through life is different. We've seen older fighters come in here and have success against younger fighters. It happens all the time. But to basically put this up as a reason that you stopped the fight because you felt like Rolando Romero was throwing and landing some punch on the older fighter, but yet the older fighter was not on the canvas when you stopped the fight. He goes on to say this, y'all. All right. When I look at a fighter who's up there in age, there's two things I look at: his reaction when he takes his first hit and his stamina in the later rounds. Up until the stoppage, Romero didn't really land flush. He landed flush in that last round. When he landed flush, Barroso went down. It told me right then and there, I don't know if he can take it. So Rolando Romero can go down. But since you're paying attention to the advanced fighter, when he goes down, it's different. It's just not making any sense. Like, I got mad respect for Tony Weeks. Like, you know, I did a live stream, man. I even went live when he was out there, you know, refereeing the Marcus Brown and Badu Jack fight. And when Marcus Brown came in there with his infamous rhino headbutt and split Badu 12-6, it was blood everywhere. And Tony Weeks handled that shit like an OG. You know what I'm saying? He handled that fight like an OG. I mean, blood everywhere. Shout out to Badu Jack, man. He wore crimson mask the entire fight, damn near. I mean, from the time he was cut to the end, they let the fight on, bro. It was crazy. But Tony Weeks was drenched in blood. So he's not new to the game. You know what I'm saying? He is a well-seasoned referee when it comes to veteran status up in this camp. But when I hear him say this, I don't think he's being entirely, fair and honest to the listeners. All right. He said, I don't know if he can take it. And then he goes on to say, now looking at it on replay, of course, I don't have at the time the advantage of slow motion replay. 5 different angles, Weeks continued. If I had been in a position, I would have stopped the fight point blank. I wouldn't have stopped the fight. Okay. Let's refresh what he just said. If I had been in that position, I wouldn't have stopped the fight. Point blank. I wouldn't have stopped the fight. Barroso was definitely on a short leash. Romero landed. It prompted me to stop the fight. In boxing, all it takes is one punch. That's what Toney Weeks said now. He's talking about up until that stoppage, Romero didn't really land flush. He landed flush in the last round. When he landed flush, Barroso went down. Now, can we look at that and say, okay, I see where you're coming from. I'll meet you in the middle and blah. Okay, yeah, we can say that a little bit, but that fight wasn't one-sided now. That fight wasn't one-sided. At least give a man a second time to go down. At least allow the fighter in Ismael Barroso to convince you that he's in trouble. Now, if I'm not mistaken, y'all, right? Wasn't Toney Weeks, didn't he referee the David Morrell fight? Was that him? David Morrell and your boss fight? He let David Morrell beat that dude into a coma. And that dude was in his 30s. So as I say again, what does advancement mean when you're looking at the aging of a fighter? What does the advancement mean per se? Because your boss was in his 30s. You know what I'm saying? David Morrell is what, late 20s? But what you was witnessing is the same reason. Well, what you witnessed in that fight is one of the same points you was making in this fight. You was talking about punches landing flush, you know what I'm saying? And he was on a short leash. You didn't have your boss on a short leash. Dave Morrell was killing this dude. He was beating this dude up. And you didn't even stop the fight. The fight went into the 12th round, man. Before dude was stopped. The 12th round, and your boss was taking a beating. But yet you say Barroso was on a short leash because of his age, and you stopped the fight early. But yet, let's put your boss into the picture. He's not considered an advanced fighter, but he's showing you he's overmatched. You know what I'm saying? He's showing you that he's outgunned. He's showing you that Dave Morrell is a much better fighter skill-wise, and he beat that dude up. So you're gonna go off a 40-year-old and you're gonna hurry up and stop the fight and with your due diligence and your skill. I mean, not your skills, your experience, right? Your experience as a referee. But yet, when you see a fight playing out in front of you, and you know that other fighter may not be 40 years old, but he may still be in the development phase to be on the level of a David Morrell. So you'll save David Barroso because he was older, but you'll let your boss get his ass beat into the ground and go into a coma just because he didn't look advanced in age. That's all I'm saying, bro. It's crazy to me because that dude could have lost his life. And, just because he wasn't his 40s and stuff like that, and he wasn't in advanced age, Toney Weeks let that man get blasted on by Dave Morrell. Your boss, yeah, the fight was stopped early, but it was stopped early based off the strength that you didn't have the right. You didn't have the right angle to see if the punches was landing. That's all I'm saying. Shout out to Mr. Pass on deck, Mark Nash on deck. What's good? King Mitch on deck. Salute. We stopped it because old boy age. Yeah, he said he was 40, man. Um, Barroso so old, you can't call him Unc. You got to call him Papa. Nah, man, that's Unc right there, man. They said Barroso has a 15-year-old great grandson walking around. God dang. I got respect for Tony Weeks, and I understand being a ref is a challenging job, but that was a bad stoppage. That was a bad stoppage. And then just to hear, what he had to say in reference to it. And let me get to the rest of it, right? The author said Weeks reiterated that Barroso's old age meant that he had to keep the Venezuelan on a tight leash than Romero. He had to keep the Venezuelan boxer, which is Ismael Barroso, on a short leash than Romero, right? Then Weeks said, but he was hurt, definitely hurt. Then I stopped it. There was no resistance to that, Weeks said. But again, if I was in a different position, I see punches didn't land, I wouldn't have stopped it at the time. However, a 40-year-old man can't take a punch like a 20-year-old man. That's always going to be at the forefront of a referee's mind. That all depends, bro. That all depends. It depends on what 20-year-old and how far along their skills are in the sport of boxing. And are they in there with the fighter that's equal to their skills or greater? You know what I'm saying? Because he goes up top earlier. He says, referees, this is Tony Weeks, referees are not infallible. And that he believed at least one, and he believed at least from his angle that Romero's punches had landed on Barroso. Weeks also crucially noted that he was especially sensitive to the fact of Barroso's relatively old age and that the knowledge contributed to him stopping the fight so swiftly. So he's just sticking to the 40 years old. That's what it is. Cut and dry, zip it up. He's done. He's sticking to the age. So every fighter that's 40 years old, what if they don't look like Barroso? And what if they have only one loss on their record? You know what I'm saying? I mean, just think about this. Barroso's 40 years old and he only had 3 losses on his record. You know what I'm saying? So don't he get some type of freaking credit being that you know he had 3 losses on his record, or he doesn't get the kind of treatment as a Jorge Linares? The reason why I'm saying Jorge Linares, because Barroso has been stopped. In those 3 losses, I think he was stopped 2 of those 3 times in his career. You know what I'm saying? He faced a loss against Anthony Crolla, KO 7th round. He faced a loss against Isa Shinaev, unanimous decision. And then he faced a loss against Akhmedov, stopped in the 9th round. And of course, they gave Rolly the stoppage in the 9th round. But prior to, he only had 3 losses. 2 of the 3 were stoppages. But Jorge Linares, up into Devin Haney, all his losses were stoppages. But ain't nobody. Let me keep it going. He says, Tony Weeks said, it's easy for someone on the outside to speak on the decision, but they don't have the responsibility of what happens to that fighter. Weeks said, all the responsibility is on the referee. When you have that responsibility, you have a different mentality. And if there has been a fight that affected you via a tragedy in the ring, that informs you actions as a referee. I was devastated from the Levander's death. I actually wanted to quit. It took me a while. It took me a minute. It's funny you mention that. It's funny you mention that, Tony. I don't doubt that Tony is feeling some type of way about the Levander's death. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna be honest. I don't think he's not feeling some type of way. But he just recently had a fight with David Morrell and Yerbov, and that could have ended up the same way as Lavander. So when I hear you say Lavander and it sits on your mind, it's on your conscience, you feel some type of way about it as an experienced referee. Why did you just let another man get beat down and get put in a coma? You just allow another man to get beat down and went into a coma. But you say you feel some type of way about Lavander. Something ain't right, man. Like the last time I checked, the third man in the ring, you're not being hit. So you're clear. You know what I'm saying? You have absolute clarity. Your shit is lucid, man. Your lens, your two pupils, you have two eyes right there in front of you. And everything is clear. Your eyesight, all that shit y'all have to go through as a referee. You know, all the little medicals that you have to pass. You passed all that. So you're talking about Lavander's death, but yet and still, you just seen David Morrell beat the shit out of Yerbov, and he too almost became a victim in the ring, dying in the ring, like the fighter that you're talking about. How is that, bro? I mean, what is going on? Like, are these referees getting to a point where they have a slight PTSD? They have a prognosis of being post-traumatic stress disorder, and I am no way, shape, or form joking about that, because they're seeing combat just like we as veterans see combat. And people believe that you have to be SEAL Team 6 to be out there experiencing combat. No, everybody's not out there in the brush. You still can have PTSD based off what is going on in front of you. And it seems like referee Toney Weeks been in the game since 1994. I believe he has a slight PTSD where he has become desensitized to what he's looking at. You know what I'm saying? He's became desensitized. Something that is extremely serious, being that close to Toney Weeks and him being him being the closest in proximity to these fighters, and he can see what's going on, to let it continue to play out the way it does without him stopping the fight. That's a problem. You know what I'm saying? That's a big problem. I'm gonna be honest with you. That's a big problem. And you wanna talk about, having somebody on a short leash. It's like, dude, I would believe you, but damn, when it comes down to a fight we just seen play out in front of us from a fighter, you know what I'm saying, that doesn't even have 10 professional wins yet, but you saw that he was dominating. So he fit very nicely into your metric, your rule metric that you use when you're in the ring. He fit real good into that, bro. You know what I'm saying? But it's not it's not consistent. It's not consistent when it comes to the Barroso stoppage, bro. You know what I'm saying? It's not consistent. It's not consistent at all. And listen, Lavanda Johnson, if he was, like, if he was still living, he'd be around in his 50s today, right? He had 42 professional fights. 34 of those a win, 26 come my way, a knockout, and 5 losses. You know what I'm saying? So, this is a fight that supposedly Toney Weeks is having on his mind. You know what I'm saying? So let me read to you, since Toney Weeks said this is something that's on his mind. A fight that he was a part of, right? So let me give y'all an understanding of what he's talking about. He said Johnson defended his title for the first time on September 17, 2005. against Mexican fighter Jesus Chavez. The fight was stopped early in the 11th round after Johnson received a barrage of punches from his opponent. Despite being able to leave the ring on his own momentum, he collapsed in the dressing room shortly afterwards. He was rushed to the hospital and had emergency surgery to correct a subdural hematoma, swelling and bleeding on the brain. Following the surgery, Johnson was placed in a drug-induced coma. Despite initial fears that he had would not survive, y'all, the night even after surgery, he survived into the next week. Okay, despite initial fears that he would not survive, the night even after surgery, he survived into the next week and was showing some early signs of improvement, but still remained in critical condition. However, his condition stopped improving, and on September 22nd, 2005, it was decided to discontinue efforts to artificially prolong his life. He was pronounced dead at 4:23 p.m. Pacific. Johnson's career record was 34 wins, 26 by way of knockout, 5 losses, 2 draws, and 1 no contest. So, this is one of those fights that Toney Weeks talking about. You know what I'm saying? And Jesus Chavez did what he's supposed to do. But Toney Weeks feels that he's using this as a measuring stick as to why he stopped the Barroso fight so early. You know what I'm saying? So let's do a little research right here. Let's do a little research right here, bro. Let's do a little research. Because Levander was extremely experienced. Jesus, much older now. Let me hold on for a second. Let me get this. Let me get this pulled up right quick. All right. So at the time Levander Johnson fought Jesus Chavez, he was 34 victories and 4 losses and 2 defeats. He was stopped in the 11th round, right? TKO. But check this out. He fought this guy back in 05. And prior to that, he had 2 wins. You know what I'm saying? And one of them was the TKO stoppage in the 7th round prior to stepping in there with Jesus Chavez against Stefano Zoff. And then before that, he fought Cassiani. He won a unanimous 10-round decision. And then he had a TKO loss in the 11th round against Javier. Okay. So the reason why I'm bringing this up is that it's somewhat like, they talk about the Patrick Day situation. Well, Patrick Day had that loss before he stepped in there with Charles Conwell. And Conwell was doing what he's supposed to do. But maybe the possibility could have been a side effect or due to the damage he received in a previous fight. Levander, 11th round TKO stoppage. He had experience on his side, but maybe with that experience, right, it ages a fighter more than what their actual age is. You know what I'm saying? So, with all that experience and though he had, minor losses on his career, leading to that fight, he had a TKO stoppage. So was he at a point of breaking down before he stepped in there with Jesus Chavez? Was there some CTE damage that was going on? because this definitely kind of remind me of the Patrick Day situation. I'm being honest with you. He fought Javier in November 2003. He went on 2 wins against fighters that was pretty experienced. 21, 15 and 2, 43 and 9, and he earned a TKO stoppage. But he went in there with Jesus Chavez, who's on a different level. Chavez was 41 and 3. He was on a different level. You know what I'm saying? This for the IBF world. And look, Johnson had already won the vacant one by stopping old boy in the 7th round. So Jesus was a step up opponent, in my opinion, from Zoff rather. So he stepped in on Jesus Chavez. Chavez was a much more experienced opponent, in my opinion. Check this out about Patrick Day. What I'm trying to explain to y'all. Let's go to Patrick Day's box rec. Patrick Day, rest in peace, Patrick Day, man. Salute to you. Much respect. He ended his career 17-4-1, 6 knockouts, right? He's well beloved by many. He was coming off a vicious fight, a dog, you know what I'm saying? Like Carlos Adames, man. He fought Carlos Adames June 28, 2019, and they went 10 rounds. And we all know Carlos, man. You know what I'm saying? Patrick Day had already been stopped before. Patrick Day had been stopped by Carlos Hernandez back in November 2015. He went on somewhat like of a 6-fight win streak, but that doesn't mean he didn't have any type of residual damage in the sport. It's crazy to say, because people will be like, well, he didn't really have that many professional fights to get damaged. Well, I tell people all the time, you remember the saying how they say so-and-so is wired different? This is no different. I ran into boxers who had pretty short careers. When I say short careers, they had 20-something wins, and they may have maybe 2 to 3 losses, right? But their speech is fucked up. You know what I'm saying? Their speech is fucked up. You can barely understand what they're saying. But yet I run into fighters that have 35 plus fights, 40. You know what I'm saying? And you can hear everything they're saying. You can hear every type, in dialogue. They clear, you know what I'm saying? Crystal clear. The clarity is there. But with Patrick, he went in there against Carlos Adames, which was a tough fight for Patrick Day, and he lost a unanimous decision. But several months later, in October, he goes in there against Charles Bad News Conwell, and he gets stopped in the 10th round. Was it enough time for Patrick Day to recover? It all depends. We don't know. Just like Levander had the experience to go in there against Jesus Chavez, but Toney Weeks saying, "Oh man, that fight right there, it sits with him. It's on his conscience. So that kind of will always be a point of reference in him not letting the fight go too long." But I'm saying to myself, nah, that shit don't make no sense, because Dave Morrell just replayed pretty much what happened. If you want to talk about Levander and Yurabov pretty much had the same situation. Didn't they? Didn't they leave the ring? I mean, last time I checked, Dave Morrell helped this man to the corner. And then everything went bad. You know what I'm saying? Everything went bad. Levander, he left the ring, boom. He fell out in the locker room. Maxim Delishev left the ring from fighting Subriel Matias, fell out, went to the hospital, went into a coma, died. You cannot sit up here and predict what's going to happen. But as a referee, you have to understand this. Every fighter is not wired the same. And you can't say that an older fighter is on a short leash, because if that older fighter is in there wrecking shop, what are you going to do? You're going to keep him on a short leash for no reason and rob him? We know that that's not the case. Because you didn't rob Yurabov. You let that man get hands put on him, knowing he was outclassed, bro. He was outclassed. And when he left the ring, people were concerned because the fighter, his opponent, that just finished beating him up, had to help him to his corner. His corner didn't even come in and help him like that to his corner. You know what I'm saying? So that fighter is going to be some type of way, just like Masayoshi Nakatani. They say he had a head injury. You know what I'm saying? When he fought Teofimo Lopez after that fight. And then he goes in there and fight Felix Verdejo, and he takes some punishment, and he was dropped, right? We're talking about an undefeated Nakatani, a contender. You know what I'm saying? When him and Tio fought for a title eliminator, that was a damn good fight. He gave Tio fits in the first half. But then he went in there and was dropped by Felix Verdejo. He ended up dropping Verdejo. Boom. We put that fight behind us. And then he goes in there and gets stopped by Lomachenko. How's that? It's all about the damage that these fighters are taking. Real talk. It all depends. But I'm not going to sit up here and beat up Tony Weeks about this shit. I just felt that it was something that when I was reading up on it, it just, a lot of parts didn't make sense to me on how he was trying to puzzle that together and create this nice little picture for us to say, okay, I understand what you're saying. Like, you've been in the game since 1994 and you want to talk about Levander Johnson's death. But when it comes down to him, just winning the title, which was vacant, right? And the way he went out, I can see if you have been consistent with that. But the reason why I just bring up that Dave Morrell fight, because that wasn't too long ago. That wasn't too long ago. That wasn't too long ago, man. Seriously, that just wasn't too long ago, man. If you was thinking about Levander, you could have thought about him in the Urbos fight. It wasn't too far away. I'm just being honest, man. If y'all want to hear something astounding, right? Just buckle up for a second, right? Y'all know to date, Tony Weeks has refereed 860 bouts. I wanted to say that to the last. This man has refereed 860 bouts, right? So out of that 860, the one fight that stands out to him the most is a fighter that died, right? That he uses as a bookmark to reference in this article that he just completed about stopping Ismael Barroso fight early, because he felt that he was taking punches, and also, he feels bad about Johnson passing away, right? But Levander Johnson's fight isn't 1% of 860. It's not even 1% of 860. So out of 860 bouts, Levander Johnson happened back in 05. 05. We're talking about back in 05, all the way up to this point. It still wasn't on your thought process when David Morrell put hands on your boat and sent that man into a coma? David almost let your boats die in front of that. I know that's what I'm talking about, man. Yes, sir. That's what I'm speaking on, Blunts. That's what I'm speaking on, bro. I surely want to know who's gonna be the ref for Bud versus Spence. At this point in time, the vets. I don't want to know just who's gonna be the referee. I want to know who the judges are gonna be. Are they gonna link up the Tim Cheathams and the Dave Moretti and the Steve Weisfeld? Are they gonna give us a Hall of Fame? Are they gonna put Elena Bird in there too? Blunts with my Harvey Doc. Yeah, or Wilson. What's his name? Wilson, the one I had on my thumbnail the other day. I like him in there too. I doubt they give him that fight though. You're talking about Vegas. You're talking about Tony Weeks. He resides in Vegas. So Toney, with 860 fights, he's gonna continue to get big fights in Vegas, man. And I got mad respect for Toney. You know why? Because he does MMA also. So he's well versed. He's a polymath at his skills. He wears many hats, just like freaking Brian Custard. Brian Custard, excuse me, he commentates on basketball, combat sports, boxing, and so forth. I got mad respect for them guys because they're showing that they have the intelligence and the know-how to do their job outside of just one genre of professional sports. David knew he had to walk dude back to the corner. Toney crazy, man. Bill's boot camp on day. What did do, Bill boot camp? How you feeling, bro? Toney admitted he was out of position. I give him credit for the admittance, but you shouldn't stop a fight if you out of position. That's what I'm saying, man. That makes me go back to Cassville, Connecticut, if I'm pronouncing this right, to when Rolly fought Jackson Marinez. I'm saying to myself, come on, man. Hold on for a second. Yeah. So let me get back to this last comment. Rigo fighting on the undercard of Broner. I wonder if the referee will have his age in the back of his mind. You know, Rigondeaux, he looks just as old as Barroso, in my opinion. It's just they fight in different weight classes. You know what I'm saying? Rigondeaux's down there, bantamweight 118 or whatever the case, out of sight, out of mind. And Barroso just happened to step in the ring with Rolly Romero. You know what I'm saying? And when it comes down to it, Rolly's at 140. He is who he is. Barroso, he had, you know, like I said, over 25 plus fights. So Toney assessed that situation, and he made fights, been in and seen fights, smelt it, felt it. You know, the sweat splashing on him, blood, all that. He's been there already, and nobody's going to convince me that this man don't have a slight case of PTSD with 860 fights, bro. With 860 moments of violence, you're trying to tell me, convince me that this man don't have a slight case of PTSD? Your eyes, your mind is, you know how they say your mind is a terrible thing to waste? The mind is extremely powerful, man. Extremely powerful, because some people may look at this and say, okay, I see a lot of things in life, but I don't remember them. Well, you can remember them if you're allowing your body, if you're putting something in your body that feeds your brain and allow it to think just a little bit more than what you was doing naturally. And you can remember some things that you ain't in a long time. I'm telling you, man, this shit is out there. And with 860 fights, moments of violence, boxing, hearing the punches, seeing the punches, hearing what fighters are saying in between these fights. Man, you're trying to tell me that this man doesn't go to sleep thinking about fights after fights after fights after fights? Hell, the fights I've been to, I still remember moments in the fights that I've been to ever since Tijuana. When I was in Tijuana, I used to go in there and see them hole in the wall fights and see my get get their ass beat. I still remember that as a teenager. I still remember that. 17 years old. I still remember it, bro. I still remember those fights in Tijuana. So I know Toney Weeks with 860 bouts that he's been in the ring now. He remember that. And we're not talking about just refereeing. We talking about judging too. That's all I wanted to talk about with that, man. Shout out to Toney Weeks, man. I met him actually. I was gonna put our picture up there. I said, nah, I ain't trying to put this picture up there. But this is fight week. Okay, transitioning. This is fight week. Teofimo Lopez and Josh Taylor fight week. Yeah, I'll probably do a live on that later on. But this is fight week. And just something I want to touch on is one thing about these fights where fighters face fighters from across the pond or whatever the case may be. When it comes down to media, a lot of times the foreign media or the neighboring media, whatever you want to call them, they get first dibs on, the credentials and the media coverage. They get first dibs because, it's more exposure for your fight, your promotion, top rank. It's more exposure, right? So a lot has been going on with Teofimo leading up to this fight with Josh Taylor, because he had pretty much put it out there that he wanted to kill Josh Taylor, but people are trying to blend that in with the personal problems that he's been having with his girl. And I was just looking through the pictures that I had of him and his girl in the streets of NY, and I remember those times. I just remember when they was together. You know what I'm saying? I remember some of the conversations they was having. I remember, Lens in the moment, walking around covering T.O. And I've been there, you feel me? I have been there, man. I've been there to a point of marriage where, and just relationships in general, where everything seems extremely nice early on. It seems refreshing. I'm just talking about early on in a relationship when you meet that female, right? And it just seems like the conversation, you can get mad at somebody and then, mad at one another and get over it. You want a lot of things to be right. You look forward to seeing that person. You look forward to them calling you. You look forward to spending time with them. That's when it's early on. And then you get used to certain habits and everything. But I always tell people this, right? I may have a bit more experience in life being that I travel the world, and I had the opportunity to meet some of the most beautiful women. And that I never thought I would meet coming out of Atlanta. I said, oh man, it's military. Every time I go somewhere, I'm a dip. I'm gonna go to the corners where I ain't gonna see no military people. I'm gonna try to visit everywhere just so I can know what it's like to experience the other side in different countries and dating their women, right? So um the wild part about this stuff with Tio is that I heard a while back that that was just something that didn't link up together with his mom and his girl. It was just something there, like the mom just wasn't feeling it with her. And this was years ago. This is years ago. I might have talked about it once, but this was years ago before I was even on YouTube like this. You know what I'm saying? Before people start to hate. You feel me? So seeing him go through what he's been going through now, and he brought a kid. When he had his child, I was happy for Tio, right? But then I always remember what I was hearing about the family situation. If the mom don't like the female, you can pretty much cancel it. Because usually, Tio is gonna look out for his mom. Tio is gonna have that bond because she birthed him in most cases, right? So why would there be a reason that she would have a problem with his girl? And then if there was a problem, I would say, in hindsight, looking back on certain things, you say to yourself, well, why bring a kid into this world if there's problems? And sometimes you stay together. Those moments when you stay together with one another, try to figure this shit out. You know what I'm saying? You having these conversations. And plus, Tio is a boxer, yo. Tio is a boxer. His career comes first. He may talk about God and his family and everything, but Tio is always in the gym and everything. His career comes first. Seriously, just like in the military comes before the family. The reason being is if you don't handle what you're supposed to handle, you're going to get punished for it. So your mindset is to make sure you're doing what you're supposed to be, doing what you're being told, carrying out the orders and everything. Tio, in a sense, to me, is that he's still young in his 20s and he's been through a lot. Tio's been through a lot. He's been through a lot to the point where people weren't believing what his dad was saying. His dad said his son was going to be a champion in 15 fights. Absolutely. They call him Nostradamus, man. They say, man, this man predicted this shit. And then Tio gets in here and beats Richard Comey, and then he goes in there and when everybody was going against him, he was an underdog against Lomachenko. He was once again taking a risk early on in his career. That's like I got mad respect for Tio, bro. But the respect that I have for Tio doesn't have anything to do with his personal life. You know what I'm saying? It's unfortunate that he, supposedly he's going through a divorce and his wife gonna take anything. Take everything. Somebody hit me up on the DM and they was like, man, appreciate you for, talking about that talk when it comes to the court systems and everything, because like we can go into the relationship at the same time. Me and a woman can go in a relationship at the same time. It's just like marriage. I was damn near married, close to 20 years, right? But You can go in a relationship at the same time. You can make sure you're taking care of your kids and you're trying to make this as the most comfortable ride ever. But when you go in that courtroom, it's almost like they try to make it seem like that you came in halfway through the journey and you never quite caught up to everything that she was doing ahead of time. And they tried to make it seem like, yeah, the kids was there. Those your kids and everything, but somehow it was some pockets in between that you didn't do what you were supposed to. And the woman is the only species that can be in a situation with you from day one. And if you have a kid or kids, you go into that courtroom when it's time for you to get a divorce. And she is the only one that get the exemption. She is the only one. She gets exempt from a lot of shit. Like a woman has to do extreme amount of dirty, grimy, low down type of action for the judge to even consider not giving her child support. You feel me? Like it has to be something extreme for them not to go in there with the mentality and knowing that they're not going to get half. A woman, no matter what she told you in her life and when y'all was married, they go into there. The attorney say, "Oh, don't worry about that. He's making all the money. He's making more money than you." The man's supposed to be a provider, right? That's the key word. We supposed to be providers. T.O. is providing. He is the boss. He is the one going out here negotiating. That's another reason why I got mad respect for T.O. Because for the Lomachenko fight, he negotiated a higher salary. Why not? You know what I'm saying? The man only had 15 pro fights, bro. And here he is standing his ground, negotiating for a higher wage against Vasyl Lomachenko. We're talking about a guy who wasn't doing what Tank was doing, wasn't on pay-per-view like that, right? But he stood his ground. And then he went to a purse bid with Triller, the face Kambosos. But getting back to the topic, when it comes down to him, wanting to do everything great, what I'm saying, in the boxing ring, taking risk, he probably didn't understand that his marriage was a risk too. And a lot of stuff that we didn't see going on from the outside looking in, him being young, like I can only speak on it because I've been there, done that. But him being young, I don't know what wasn't told to him or what was told to him. But for him to get on social media and say she's about to take half of his money and half of this, it is amazing how we can go into this relationship together and we can tell each other we love you back and forth. And we're doing for the kids and we're doing for one another. We're trying to have this family bond. You know what I'm saying? We're trying to build this cohesiveness of love as long as we possibly can. And then somehow, some way, the shit don't work out. The shit don't work out. And let's say, for instance, T.O. was boxing before he met his girl. A woman's mentality, especially when their attorney get a hold of them, is that they want to go take half, yo. They want to go take half. The attorney, at that point, when a woman is leaving, she want to make sure, I'm not saying it's every woman, but majority of them, she want to make sure that she gets the ticket. Now, this man has worked and worked and worked to build himself up. He has sponsorships with Bud Light and Essential Water. I like T.O. as a person. I say this, like, I've seen him in action when it comes to communicating and being a PR person and selling himself. But personal life, the judge don't want to, unless you're connected, the judge, it could be either or with that. You can have a connection to with your attorney or it don't matter. But when I always hear these women, or I always hear a dude say, "Oh, she's gonna take half," a man never gets that ticket. A man, we never can go in the courtroom with a ticket and say, "I'm gonna get half, bro." Shit, I ain't sweating this, dude. After I get out this courtroom, getting half of her shit, I'm gonna go get me a job. I already got a job lined up. My annual income, combined income with what I'm getting from her. Oh my God, nigga, I'm gonna be right. I'm definitely gonna get the vehicle that I always wanted to get. I'm gonna get the house that I always want. Oh man, you talking about 18 years for child support too? D- Dude, I am in the money. But that just doesn't go like that. That is dream world. That shit does not work that way. And I hope TO it doesn't get to a point where people are so quick to say, well, mentally. They want to put mental health up there. And let's just say this. Let's just put this out there. I always say boxers are who they are. They're getting punched in the head. And a lot of these boxers are being punched in the head as children. Think about that. WCS always put this out there. When I seen these kids in Thailand, right? When I went to these Muay Thai schools and I witnessed these young kids, I looked at their shins was fucked all up. Like these kids grow up to be tough as hell, right? And I looked at how much punishment, like this was the rule of thumb over there in Thailand. To treat these kids just like you wanted them to be when they grow up. So when they get a certain age, they are monsters. They are extremely tough, man. They are gladiators, bro. They have went through the hell and back. They didn't get treated like American kids. They went through the rigors of training, but they're taking punishment. Boxers take punishment. That punishment that they're taking inside the ring bleeds out to their civilian life. So a lot of these boxers, what? They have domestic violence issues. It's nothing new, y'all. It's nothing new. I don't know what's been going on with that particular situation, but I hope he gets through it. You know what I'm saying? It's not going to be pretty. T.O. thinks he's Jesus and Job from the Bible. This guy's still delusional. I like T.O., man, because we're imperfect at the end of the day. And nobody's perfect, man. But when I say nobody's perfect, I'm not using it in this particular sequence or this particular manner to justify anything T.O. has done. I haven't heard he did something crazy to his girl or family that be considered violent, right? But on the other hand, we're talking about boxing. We're talking about full contact sport. We're talking about being hit in the head. Some of these guys, they do have episodes outside the ring. You think you're gonna look, you have one brain. You have one compartmental brain, right? That is encased. It just happened to be protected by a certain bone. Okay, it is encased. So therefore, and when the impact is received by that skull, still the brain receives that impact and that damage too. So just imagine as a kid going through sparring, boom, 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 accepting damage. When you get to a certain age, in your 20s and 30s, and everybody's wired different, you might get different type of freaking moments where fighters are acting out. You might get those moments where a fighter lose their mind. You might get those moments, you're in a relationship that you turn up on your girl, and what I'm saying, it's an abusive relationship because you've been getting hit in the head, and you have these moments where your brain is just basically giving you back what it's been put through. You know what I'm saying? CTE is not something that you just wear on your sleeve. CTE has to be located. You have to be examined to find out how bad it is. So I hope he get that shit together. And I got him winning this fight against Josh Taylor. Seriously, I have T.O. winning this fight against Josh Taylor and becoming 2 division world champ. Previously, I did say that T.O. was going to go up to 140 and become 2 divisional world champion. It doesn't matter how he looked against freaking Sandor Martin. Josh Taylor looked a certain way against Jack Catterall too. Everybody's just riding T.O. out. they writing him off rather, just because they heard him say, "Do I still got it?" Now it's certain situations about To that, yeah, I'll consider eccentric. But like I said before, I also seen him, like when I was speaking to Jahai when we was on that fight week with To. Um he came up there and started talking and telling Jahai all this stuff, and like he was talking to little bro or something. I'm like, okay, it's his content, but you know what I'm saying? In a lot of cases, I think Jahai act more mature than To. But To was up here, giving him the Black Power speeches, whatever he was giving them. I didn't mind seeing it, as an older man. I said, okay, they just chopping it up. To was trying to, and To's accomplished a lot, man. You know what I'm saying? He's going in there for his second division, but yet he was able to become undisputed in his first division. That's a big deal. And he beat the pound for pound best in his first division. You know what I'm saying? He fought an active champion and beat the unified champion in his first division. You can't ask for no better than that, bro. You can't ask for no better than that. People can sit up here and ride To off all he wants. That man became undisputed 135, and now he's about to step up and take another risk and fighting Josh Taylor again. I'm talking about another risk in fighting a champion again. This time, a former undisputed champion who hasn't been beat at 140 pounds. We know Lomachenko had been beat prior to Teofimo handing him his second defeat. You know what I'm saying? That's a big deal. That's a big deal. Real talk. That was a big deal, bro. That was a big freaking deal because this was Lomachenko's third division, and To was able to beat this dude. Plus, he was on the pound for pound list. A big freaking deal, man. Salute to him. But Josh Taylor vacated his belts. He didn't lose. It's a lot that he still has because he did vacate the belt that Team Lopez won't. And they're gonna have to figure out. They're gonna have to come in here with a way better game plan than they had against Sandor Martin. Darian Chinko Munguia. Munguia is just one of those fighters, like, to see him fight. You know what I'm saying? Jaime Munguia doesn't interest me to see him fight. He's not a bad fighter. I call him a Zorro of boxing. He dips in and dips out. I swear to God. Like, Munguia does it so smoothly. He does it without a horse, though. You know what I'm saying? I think Munguia, he comes in here on a motherfucking elephant or something. A flying elephant. Dumbo, goddammit. Munguia flying this bitch on Dumbo. Some cartoon shit. Like, this dude is always fighting people, and his name just pop up out of nowhere, like, oh, Munguia's fighting this person. He said he wants Charlo, Mar Charlo. I'm like, okay. You know what I'm saying? Okay. I look at Munguia and I say he has all these fights, but what's his most memorable fight that people latch on to? That's like, oh man, I remember that Munguia fight. I don't know, man. I don't know, shawty. I ain't rocking with To at all. Hey, that's you, bro. You know what I'm saying? I feel you on that. It's all good. It's all good. It's all good. There's no problem with me. But just let it be known that the fight is going down this week. The final presser will be tomorrow at 12 o'clock. So they will have the final presser. The fight card is pretty decent. Truth be told, the fight card is pretty decent. Let me give you a breakdown of the fight card a little bit. Shout out to Top Rank. Shout out to Top Rank. You know what I'm saying? One of the best in the game. So just some notable names that's going to be on the card this weekend. Yeah, Hobson, Conseil. You have Jermaine Ortiz back in action. Henry LeBron, undefeated 17-0. Omar Rosario 10-0. These are the A-side fighters. Damian Neba is Neba. Damian Neba 11-0. Shushu, Bruce Carrington 7-0 back on deck. And Xander Zayas 15-0. And of course, Josh Taylor, who is undefeated 19-0 against T.O. 18-1. Both of these fighters have the same amount of professional fights. And this is for the WBA World Super Light. So that will be the main event inside the Hulu Theater. You know what I'm saying? Madison Square Garden. And it will be hosted by Top Rank Boxing Promotions. You know what I'm saying? It's going down Saturday, June 10th, which is this weekend. So yes, indeed, that's what we're talking about. And not to forget, just a couple of weeks away, you have Jihad Tucker. You know what I'm saying? Junior middleweight, July 1st, Saturday, is going down. He will be back in action in his 11th professional fight. One of the most talented up and coming, stars in the sport. He's been fighting, under the bright light since day one, and he's been doing his thing. You know what I'm saying? LeBron James of boxing, he's been doing his thing, bro. Not to forget his team, Team Tucker. Shout out to all of them. Shout out to Molly, who's at one point in time, man, in the future, Molly is a fighter that you might want to pay attention to now while he's young and haven't became professional. But he has the opportunity to come in here and do big things as a professional. But he's the younger brother of Jahai. And also, you see the young man down here in the gray jeans and the plaid shirt. That's Jahai and Molly's younger brother, Bam Bam. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying Bam Bam going to be in the sport either, but it's potential that Bam Bam might get a little bug in him and start putting on them gloves. Seriously now. He's been on the bag already. But yeah, that's where we at with it, man. I always want to give Jahai, a big shout out, man. Extremely talented, tough, give you that gorilla action in the ring, coming off that with Seknashvili, man. It was an incredible fight. And they tried to put him in there with Xander Zayas sparring partner, just because he called out Zayas at the freaking the post fight, and Zayas said he didn't want to ruin Jahai. So what they do, they gave him Zayas sparring partner, this big dude that fought at freaking light heavyweight before, and they sent them in there. And yeah, he came out strong out the gate. It's not how you start, it's how you finish. And goddamn, that ride got bumpy real quick. Seriously, that ride got bumpy real quick, shawty. It got bumpy real quick. I'm not gonna lie to you, but appreciate everyone for pulling up. Of course, I'll be back. Let me see. The last 2 or 3 performances have been subpar for T.O. If Taylor isn't drained severely, I got him beating T.O. What do you mean drained? Why are we talking about weight so much lately? Why are we talking about weight so much? Like they was talking about a rehydration clause with Ryan Garcia, but what stopped the fight was a body shot. Not a body shot because he was drained, a body shot because it landed and it hurt. You know what I'm saying? It hurt. It wasn't because, he was barely able to walk around in the ring and he was stumbling over his own feet because he had a 10-pound rehydration. Josh Taylor, when has he missed weight now? Like he chose to stay at 140. He chose to. He's the champion. So how are we going to say drain? It's either or. Either you don't like T.O. winning because of his last performance, or what? Like you can't say, well, Josh Taylor's going to be drained if he ain't drained. No, bro, we can't do that. We can't take away the momentum. If Josh Taylor, you have Josh Taylor winning, you gotta stand on it. But T.O. goes in there and win, he's gonna win, and ain't gonna be no excuses, because people can look at T.O.'s last performance and say, "Oh man, well, I hear people saying that T.O. gonna get stopped." Okay, if you believe he's gonna get stopped, then stand on it. You know what I'm saying? Stand on it. That's all I'm saying. Don't make no excuses for freaking Josh Taylor. Yeah, he been speaking about moving up, but he has made no attempt. Like no catch weight, 144, 143, 144, no catch weight, no nothing, bro. You know what I'm saying? Nothing. He didn't even, I mean, come on, man. He didn't even shy away from saying, you know what, I don't want to fight T.O. I'm gonna vacate all the belts and he just fight for a vacant belt. No, he chose to keep the belt. T.O. won his second fight, and now he's stepping in there with the champ. And he said and T.O. said he want to kill the man. So this should be extremely interesting, because both of these fighters can fight. Both of these guys can fight, man. Both of these fighters can fight. But I'm just saying, I am going for Teofimo Lopez. I'm looking for the best T.O. that we've seen. Even when he beat Lomachenko, I'm expecting the best T.O. to go ahead and beat Josh Taylor and give him his first loss. I'm expecting the best. For real. I'm expecting the best, bro. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I agree. Both of them have some to think about based off their last performance. They do. Real talk. They do. But yeah, we'll be back on deck, man. Hot grease never stop. Hey, y'all hold it down. Appreciate y'all pulling up as always. Truly appreciate it. Y'all want to donate to the channel. You know, the Cash App is floating across on the ticker. Just check that out. Hit the like button on your way out. Like, share, sub, and make sure you get these notifications. Till next time, turn up and tune in. And also, man, y'all stay tuned. You know, I'm trying to make some shit move. Y'all stay tuned, man. I'm out.